Due to the increasing cost of a barrel of crude oil, the price of gasoline is now rising across the country as well, hitting its highest levels of the year this week. AAA notes the national average price for a gallon of self-serve gasoline is $3.85 per gallon as of this morning. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is trying to capitalize on those rising prices. He's blaming the cost of gas on President Joe Biden's woke energy agenda. Everything is woke for Ron DeSantis. And get this, DeSantis has pledged that if he becomes president, he will deliver $2 per gallon gas. Come on, Ron. For fact's sake, the president of the United States has virtually no direct input into the price of gas. So even if DeSantis wanted to do that, he couldn't. Let's examine why. First off, there's a multinational infrastructure that controls the price of gasoline, which is simply crude oil that has been refined into petroleum. A major fixture in that infrastructure is the group OPEC, which stands for the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. It's described as an intergovernmental organization controlling most of the world's oil supply. It's basically an anti-competitive cartel. OPEC is made up of 13 of the world's leading oil exporting nations, including Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela. The United States, which is the world's largest producer of oil, and Canada, from which the U.S. gets most of its oil, are not members of OPEC. In 2016, the group also teamed up with 10 other oil exporting nations, including Russia, which is the world's third largest oil producer, to create a new entity commonly referred to as OPEC Plus. Now, OPEC and OPEC Plus say it aimed to regulate the supply of oil in order to set the price for the world market. It is a world market. This is something to remember. According to OPEC, roughly 40% of the world's oil production and 60% of the world's petroleum market come from the group's member countries. They accounted for more than 80% of the world's proven oil reserves in 2021. So it should not surprise you that this set of countries has a major influence on global energy prices. OPEC's influence on the market has been widely criticized for inflating prices to the benefit of its members. To help offset high prices, some countries like Venezuela and Iran subsidize the price of gasoline, making it cheaper for consumers at gas stations. The United States isn't one of those countries. Instead, the U.S. levies a federal tax on gasoline, 18.4 cents per gallon. That tax pays for things like federal highway maintenance. So now that we understand that there are far bigger factors at play when determining the cost of oil in the global market and that it's not decided by the White House, it's worth noting there is one scenario in which the President of the United States can directly affect the price of gasoline in the United States. The U.S. government controls what's known as the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, SPR. It's the world's largest supply of emergency crude oil. The SPR was established to reduce the harmful impact of global disruptions in the supply of petroleum and oil. Think economic crises, natural disasters, or man-made accidents. But the president can only tap into the SPR under very specific circumstances. It's happened a few times, including in 1991 after Operation Desert Storm in Iraq ruptured the global oil market. President George H.W. Bush directed the Department of Energy to prepare for a drawdown of nearly 34 million oil barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. In 2005, in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, President George W. Bush called for a drawdown to help offset the major damage to the oil production facilities in the Gulf of Mexico. During the Arab Spring in 2011, President Barack Obama approved the sale of 30 million barrels of crude oil to offset supply disruptions because of unrest in Libya, which is the 12th largest exporter of crude oil in the world. In 2017, President Donald Trump tapped into the reserve for the biggest non-emergency strategic oil sell-off to fund the government. And last March, President Joe Biden announced a sale from the reserve to address the significant global supply disruption caused by Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine. But like I said, those instances are rare, and they're generally speaking for emergencies. As it has for decades, the price of oil is determined by a global network of oil-producing countries, some OPEC, some OPEC Plus, some non-OPEC. The president of this country, past, present, and future, does not have the power to tip the scales of the global oil market. And no matter how much Ron DeSantis cries woke over Biden's energy policy, $2 gas just isn't going to happen because he says so. Try again.